Hey Monica, it's Jack with Onboard Landscaping. I'm here to walk you through the design. Um, there might not be a whole lot of area that we're covering, but it is a little bit more complicated because we are incorporating the ground covers. Now, through doing the ground covers, we're eliminating so much maintenance. However, there is still a little bit of complexity when it comes to the borders. So I'll take you through the borders first. The border would come off the house here. This would be a linen stone cobble border. We would excavate, compact a gravel base, put down a mortar bedding, tamp those stones into place, and the stones actually come, on their ends, they're a little bit irregular. So we cut that with a concrete saw so that it's very nice and linear, and each transition from one stone to the next is really nice and straight. The circle here is to separate this dwarf hinoki cypress from the ground covers that it borders, and then the border shoots out of that circle and into the concrete stoop over here. And then you get another stone border that comes over here and shoots straight into the concrete driveway, and then you have another semicircle border here to again separate the dwarf hinoki cypress from both the ground covers. We don't need a border near the driveway. It'll save you some expenses, and usually putting an extra border near the driveway is just kind of pointless. The concrete will act as a border, and we'll be able to save you some money on material and whatnot through doing that. There is also another border if you look close enough, and that border is to separate the ground covers from the backdrop plants. And in certain areas like here where you have two ground covers, there will be a border in between the two here, border in between the two here, and then a little horizontal border here in between these two ground covers. Then you also have an black aluminum border that separates the ground cover from the backdrop shrubs. Like here too, you have that as well. So yeah, now that the borders are explained, we can start going over the plants, the fun part. Oh, one more thing, there would be a little border here to separate this periwinkle from this dream cloud lilac, which is our first bush, which I think is going to do great in this spot. It's 3 to 4 inches high by 3 to 4 foot wide lilac, so it's a dwarf lilac. It's the smallest one I could find from the nursery where we will be getting all of these amazing plants. Yeah, I think it'll do just fine in this spot, and you get that lilac that you were talking about. The first ground cover here is Bowell's periwinkle. Great versatile plant, really hardy, does well in basically full sun to full shade. Has a blue flower which will contrast nicely in this area. I don't think we have a couple blues in here, but yeah, I like the idea of having some blue here. And then, like I said, we have a dwarf hinoki cypress here. This is a bigger bed of Pachysandra. I like that idea. Pachysandra is hardy. There are very few problems with Pachysandra, typically speaking, especially if we do the bed prep, which I will be explaining later on in this video. And then on both of the sides of the window here, we have a little Henry Sweetspire. Another great plant for a shadier area, partial shade area. Has these nice wispy white flowers, which are really cool. In the middle here, we have 3 double play doozy spireas. Originally, I actually had a dwarf honeysuckle bush here, but then I did a little bit more research and I found that it spreads. And I also realized we need to add the spirea because you mentioned spirea. And the color is just amazing on these as well. So all these shrubs, very low maintenance, don't spread. So got a thumbs up, I think, for all of this area here. Over here we actually have 2 different types of ground cover. This is a prairie smoke. This is kind of in between, just a smaller flowering perennial and a ground cover. It does work well as a ground cover. It's a lesser, it's not as common, so I like that aspect. You don't really see it all that often, but it would get about 4 to 6 inches taller than the rest of these ground covers, which isn't a bad thing, but yeah, I think it'll look great. Then over here we have Meadow Anemone, another really cool partial shade ground cover that'll do really fantastic in this spot. Also lesser known, don't really see it a whole lot. Beautiful flower. On both of the sides here we have a Invincible wee white hydrangea. Has these really poofy white flowers. Also a dwarf hydrangea, so it'll stay nice and compact. And then in the middle here we have 3 New Jersey teas. Another great bush. Doesn't spread. Partial shade. Thumbs up. And I think really, if you're looking at the grand scheme of all these selections, I think we really have a good conglomeration that really represents flowering ground covers, flowering shrubs that do well in these shadier partial shade areas. Like, I think if we take all of these combined, I think we've really maxed out what we're looking to accomplish here. So again, another dwarf Enoki cypress on the corner here is a point of interest. And then over here we have Sky Blue Aster. I really like this one. Great flower on this one. And then our last one is this Canada Wild Ginger. And this is really our only plant in the whole design, excluding the cypresses that don't flower. But is a very cool plant. I love the way it looks. It's got this nice glossy leaf. And yeah, I think that just about covers it except for the bed prep. The bed prep we'd probably got currently rototilling the existing soil, most likely taking some of that existing soil out, and then bringing in like 8 to 10 yards of composted soil. I want probably 5 inches of composted soil so that when we put in all these plants, I can feel comfortable putting a 1-year warranty on these plants. So let me know what you think. Thanks.